Good morning, good morning, good morning. We are back for another episode of the Buckeye Roast. I should say we are late for another episode of the Buckeye Roast. We have been having technical difficulties all morning, but we are here. Q, how you doing?
I'm awake, man. It's Tuesday, so it was a little bit of a short week this week, but yeah, man, I'm good. Can't complain. Ready to get going.
Absolutely, absolutely. It feels like a month has went past with all of the college football shows and things that we have been doing the past couple days, but we are on to a new week. But before we get into the new week, we've got to talk about some of the things we learned from this past week. I know you got some national notes, so we will get right into that.
Yeah, let's jump into it. Everybody, like the video. Appreciate y'all hold it down in the chat while we were getting it together. So make sure you do that. You're on Twitter. Like and retweet. Do that also in the community. Help a brother out, man. Help two brothers out. All right, man. Let's jump into it. So pre-show last night. Got to start with this. Florida State versus Boston College. I'm gonna have to scrub a few episodes off the internet of what I said before the season kickoff because Mike Norvell watched me put him in as a top coach. DJU watched me talk about him, and they said, "Oh, we got something for you," and have totally not shown up since that moment. Ron, what? Oh, let me start with this. First of all, Bill O'Brien has early success. Was Ryan Day right about Bill O'Brien? Because it looks like that offense was not too bad against Florida State.
Yeah, the Ryan Day coaching tree officially grows. Like with the success of Bill O'Brien, you see Boston College go out there and get it done. But I don't know how overly impressed they are. I just feel like Florida State might be terrible.
that was my second question. What the hell happened to Florida State? They were minus 16 and a half favorites going into the game. If you were brave enough to bet the money line, I'm sure that paid off extremely well. My question, what? I don't know. You probably don't know, but I'm gonna ask anyway for you in the chat. The hell happened to this team?
I mean, is this a consequence of the transfer portal? Like, you saw this exact type of fall off after Michigan State had Kenneth Walker and they had a magical run with him at running back. And then the following season, they fall off a cliff because the team was built completely off the transfer portal. And Florida State goes out and gets transfers again, but they're not having the same level of success that they had last year. I think it just boils down to it shows how important these high school players are to these teams and building quality depth within your program as well as adding pieces through the transfer portal versus building an entire team based off of the transfer portal.
Yeah, I agree. It's more the path Ohio State takes, where you get a guy here and there to fill in spots, and then not base it on your team because they don't have time to gel. And if some guy doesn't hit, like DJU has not hit so far, you are in big trouble because they don't have another. It seems like they don't have another guy quarterback that can play, that can even put on the field. So yeah, it's a lot of work there, but yeah, I had to start with that because they are looking god awful. Next up, Texas this week. Ron, so I'm gonna ask you. You seem like a betting man. I'm also gonna ask the chat. Texas is favorite minus 6.5 going into their team up north matchup. What are you betting? Are you betting the over? Are you betting the under?
Hammer the over, man. Did you watch that Michigan game, man? They don't have a quarterback. And the biggest concerns were uh if Michigan's offense were to be able to get loose on Texas's defense, and I don't see any scenario where that happens. So if Quinn Ewers is able to protect the ball and not turn it over against Michigan's defense, which looked impressive the other day, but outside of that, unless they come out here with a historic defensive performance, I think this is Texas all the way, and I don't think it's particularly close either. I saw a lot of people celebrating the Big Ten's record against the SEC, and a lot of people were quick to remind everyone on the timeline that Michigan plays Texas this week.
Yeah, so you heard it here first. Ron said bet the over. I want to hear from the guys in the chat, so we know we got some Teton fans in here.
Who you got?
Where you take it? Yeah, I'm gonna have to take the over, man. I clearly think that Michigan struggled to score the ball. I don't know if they will be able to keep up with Texas, even if it's an offensive battle. So, yeah. I think Texas is going to put up points, and I don't know if Michigan can chase them down. So I so far will take that over. If I lose my money, I lose my money, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Oh yeah, you just got money to lose like that after cashing those Arvell Reese stocks.
Got a little extra to spend. Okay, so on 3, put their freshman standouts of the week. There's one particular guy I want to talk about. I'll give you the 5 before we do that. So Jeremiah Smith made it up there.
Jeremiah Smith. Top 5?
No, unfortunately not. Some other
no.
freshmen.
They got it wrong
out.
then.
That was a good guess, though. He's 20% the way there. So Jeremiah Smith, Dylan Raiola, former Ohio State commit, playing in Nebraska. Anthony Knapp for Notre Dame. The lineman, Ryan Williams, we talked about yesterday, having a big-time game. And the one I want to circle in on is Dylan Stewart. So let's take a little trip back to memory lane. Dylan Stewart was favored to go to Ohio State, a defensive end out of D.C. Yesterday, recorded the highest graded player according to I think it's Pro Football Focus in week 1 of college football. Not for a freshman, not for SEC, an entire college football. I think it was at one point a 97.5 and finished at 95.5 for a grade. Had 1.5 sacks, was explosive. If you want to see some of his clips, just go to Twitter, type it in, they'll show up. Looked awesome. So I want to ask you this. Will Ohio State regret missing on Dylan Stewart in recruiting?
Sounds like it. If he's as good as the PFF grade, I mean, definitely they're going to miss out on that. I don't think the Buckeyes are in a position to just turn down the best defensive end in
college football, maybe.
Yeah, apparently in college football. So, yeah, no, it's definitely going to sting if he continues to ball out like this. I mean, obviously the Buckeyes are loaded at defensive end right now, but and they got Edric Houston in last year's class, but at the same time, a lot of the defensive ends in that room are a little bit older. You have Kenyatta and Caden, who are juniors, and then you have Jack and JT that came back for their senior season. So it would have been awesome to be able to pair Dylan Stewart with Edric Houston, someone that we got to see get involved in the game on Saturday, but it wasn't best player in college football involved.
Not yet. Yeah, I will agree there. I think, too, he also had like a game-saving forced fumble was on his stats. So he certainly balled out, guy we'll have to keep an eye on. So still in the pre-show, but steering a little more to Ohio State. So Pro Football Focus put out their teams of the week. Nobody made national, but as far as the conference goes, Lathan Ransom and Tyleek Williams both make the Big Ten team of the week for Pro Football Focus. Quick question. Is anyone missing?
Jeremiah Smith. Well, wide receivers made it.
I actually don't know. I just think those Ohio State names because I wasn't gonna be able to combat it either way.
I didn't watch this guy play, but I think my guy's better.
I watched a total Iowa game. Jeremiah Smith had a better game. No, I could not do that. So
yeah, I'm interested to see what wide receivers made the list. But yeah, that's the only other one that I would probably think of off of the top of my head that maybe potentially got snubbed. Definitely Lathan Ransom deserves to be on there, so I'm glad that he made it.
Yeah, maybe I say the only other guy in his stats didn't really pop out, but I thought Sonny Shaw's really looked the part on Saturday. I thought he really played well. He just didn't jump out on the stats as much as probably these guys who were on there did. But yeah, everybody like the video. That's pre-show. We're trying to roll him through that way we can get everything in here. So we have not. This is a new segment for us. So let me know. We get some feedback. You like it? You don't like it? Let us know. But chat, we are going to do the things we learned on Saturday. So we'll go one for one, and then we can give each other some feedback and get through these. So, but I want to know from you, what did you learn on Saturday about Ohio State? Ron, I will start it off here, and then I will let you go second. So the first thing I learned was turnovers were emphasized. Jim Knowles, a lot in the offseason, talked about, what are we missing? We're missing sacks and turnovers. That's what he said. He says a priority. Ohio State came to the game on Saturday, forced 3 turnovers, had 2 defensive touchdowns. They did the job that the coach wanted them to do. So I say they turned whatever they were doing. The turnovers worked. You saw Lathan Ransom with the tackle on the quarterback going punching at the ball. So turnovers were first in the priority list for Ohio State. That's the first thing I learned.
How much do you think this aggressive approach has to do with Jim Knowles' level of comfort as a coordinator combined with his level of comfort with the experience on that defense?
No, I think it's massive. I think the level that the secondary is, where it was almost like, dang, we laid the ransom. It looked like he was like, yeah, Caleb Downs, who? Like, like I'm out here as well. I think just the level of the cover with the secondary allows you to take a lot of risk, and I think too, he's like, look, I can blitz guys and create turnovers without worrying about giving up an 80-yard play in a couple seconds. So I think that deals with a lot with how aggressive these guys are going after the ball, because you saw it Saturday. They're poking after the ball. They're not worried about the next guy not being there to help them with the tackle, and they're like, let's create these turnovers.
Yeah, man, it was really awesome to see them flying around out there and be aggressive. And it felt like some of the aggression that we saw from Jim Knowles in his first year might have been a little premature. But now, with a experienced defense like he has now out there, to see them fly around and be aggressive and know that they can take a few more risks with one, knowing how good the defense is, and two, knowing that they're not going to lose their spot. They're not battling for a first time defensive coordinator to believe in them to play. They're guys that can go out there and play within themselves and really take those risks that allow Ohio State to get those turnovers.
Yeah, exactly that. All right, Ron, I'll pass it to you. First thing you learned on Saturday.
That we don't have a starting punter. Ryan Day named Nick Mularkey the starting punter, and then he doesn't come out there after having a rough
Hey.
week of practice and doesn't kick the ball in week one. He noted after the game that he probably should have tried to get him in towards the end of the game just to have a freshman punter get out there, especially one that's battling for the first time, hasn't taken a snap in Ohio Stadium. So Ryan Day did acknowledge that he wished he got him in the game later, but a lot of people said I was crazy when I was telling you that Chase Brown was reporting of 11 Warriors that, hey, this is still a battle at punter, despite Nick Mularkey punting the ball out of stadiums and viral videos, that, hey, this guy has had consistency issues in practice. He goes out the week leading up to the Akron game and doesn't have his greatest week of practice, and the Buckeyes bench him. So it'll be interesting to see where this punting battle goes. But the thing that I learned is I don't think we have a starter, being that the battle's continuing and Nick Mularkey's still going to get a chance to come out there and play, but also was not the starter against Akron. So the first thing that we learned is we don't know anything.
Man, yeah, this has to be the first time I've ever seen a guy named a starter and barring injury the Saturday, not even a full 7 days later, that guy doesn't play at all.
I'll
So
be taking that.
like, that's would be about the first time I had to see that. But that's definitely a funny thing. I almost thought about putting that up there, and I was like, no, I'm gonna leave that because I'm sure Ron will pick that one up. All right. So the second thing I learned on Saturday, well, really this weekend, but I'll say Saturday, is Ohio State leads the Big Ten pack. So we talked about, contenders for the Big Ten. Ohio State hasn't won it in a few years now. And a lot of talk was, well, Oregon's coming to the conference. Well, Michigan, they're pesky. They're always around. The defense is going to be there. Neither of those teams really looked the part. I'd say the two teams that looked really better were Penn State and USC both this weekend. So for me, Ohio State really is the only Big Ten team that I've seen on Saturday where I'm like, they're the national contenders. They're the team, and everybody else is playing pickup in the Big Ten so far. So Ron, that's the second thing I learned.
Yeah, the second thing I learned apparently is that I can't read, because when you sent me this outline, I started writing mine and completely ignored the fact that you said this exact same thing. I had Big Ten, the leader in the pack, or Ohio State, the leader in the Big Ten pack right now after watching week one of college football. Oregon was the team that I had the most concerns about, especially of teams on Ohio State's schedule as far as leaders in the Big Ten. And man, did they not look great in week one. I was not loving what I saw out of the Oregon Ducks. I was actually impressed with what I saw out of Penn State in week one against West Virginia. I thought that was a team that they would struggle with, especially with the way West Virginia came on late towards the end of the year, it being a regional rivalry in Morgantown. I thought that type of energy might get to Drew Aller, but Drew Aller out there balling out with Trey Wallace healthy for Penn State, a guy that showed out for them early in the season last year, but got hurt. They went out and got Julian Fleming in the transfer portal, a guy that many people thought would come in and be the number one at Penn State. But Trey Wallace absolutely asserting himself as the number one at Penn State. So a little surprised with how the Big Ten looked and how Ohio State looked comparatively. And even with Penn State looking good, I still think Ohio State looks better than them and will be an issue for them this year.
Yeah, no, agreed. Well, I will still give you the next W starter 3, and I will follow you. Ron, what is the third thing you learned on Saturday?
I'm gonna go with offensive line depth. I know there's been a lot made, and then you can see the comment here from Emily. Even watching back, you could tell that the offensive line on rewatch was not as bad as people made it seem during the game and after the game. And again, I keep talking about we've said for what, 2 or 3 years now, we can maybe afford one injury on the offensive line. And if it goes anything past that, we are in trouble. The fact that we were able to get through a whole game and keep both quarterbacks clean, going to the 7th man on our depth chart, potentially 8. Like we saw a ton of people play, and the fact that Donovan Jackson isn't playing, but we were able to get Carson Hinsman reps at right guard, Austin Saravell to start at left guard, that gave me a ton of confidence in the depth that this line has, not only for the players that could potentially play next year, but in the event of injuries, or if Donovan Jackson needs to take his time coming back from his injury, that we know that we have guys that are capable of playing and aren't putting the health of our quarterback at risk, like we saw in the Cotton Bowl where Devin Brown's getting his brain rattled because we can't block anyone at right guard. So it's exciting to see that level of depth, because especially during the Cotton Bowl, it was concerning seeing, hey, we're only missing one offensive lineman. We couldn't field one capable starter, and we had 2 quarterbacks running for their lives the entire game. So to see them go from how don't we have a single person that can fill in at guard during the Cotton Bowl to us rotating all the way to 8 deep on the offensive line during meaningful minutes and keeping the quarterback clean, I think that was a huge revelation for the Buckeyes, knowing that they have this level of depth at the offensive line position.
Yeah, I'm sure Devin Brown walked out on Saturday like, oh, now y'all want to block? Running for my life in December, going out with an injury. Yeah, no, I thought the offensive line wasn't bad at all. Not quite the push maybe I wanted, but even on replay and rewatch, they opened some holes. I thought the pass blocking wasn't bad at all. Gave Will Howard a chance to scramble a little bit and get out the way. So I thought the offensive line performed well. I think they need to continue to pursue depth. Good Lord, deaf. No, they're not deaf. They can hear. Deaf. And
they're out there doing the Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. Butchered that word. But yeah, I think they still need to take the time and develop these few weeks before we go to Oregon, regardless of how they looked on Saturday. And I think the offensive line will continue to come. Donovan Jackson will hopefully be back soon, so I'm ready to roll. All right. Following that, the next thing I learned, piggybacking off from the great minds of you and Emily over here, is Jelani Thurman needs to step up for this team. So Saturday, the Titans were able to play pretty much even snaps all across the board, but recorded no catches, blocking here or there. They kind of needed some work, and brings you back to my point. Jelani Thurman has to be the dude for this team. He has to be the leader of the pack. We talked about that pass Will Howard threw to I can't say it. What's his Titans last name?
Will Kazmarek.
There we go. I didn't want to. We saw the pass he threw to Will Kazmarek where he put it really the only place where the tight end could get it and the defender couldn't. And I'm just thinking, if that's Jelani Thurman with his size, speed, long arms combination, that's a touchdown. So I'm banging on the table. Like, this guy needs to step up. He needs to play more. He needs to be a weapon for this team, because again, that is the difference of the offense going to the next gear. We talked about the offensive line. I think the offensive line will get it together, but I don't think they ramp up Ohio State's offense to the next gear. I think Jelani Thurman is that one key that's missing to Ohio State going to, like, man, what do we do when they come on the field? So that's the fourth thing I learned.
Yeah,
A
Emily
printing out.
mentioned in her comment that the tight ends need to block better. I didn't watch the tight end specifically on the second rewatch. Still other things that I was checking for. That's something that I got to keep an eye on the next time I do rewatch that game. But yeah, man, I agree 1,000% with you as far as there is an open opportunity, especially the fact that we're seeing Jelani get on the field despite Ryan Day saying we need to see the consistency, despite talking about the mistakes that he's made and still allowing him an opportunity to play. It seems like they're giving him every opportunity to seize this job, and it seems like it's on Jelani to really step up and grab that opportunity because it seems like it's there, especially with their willingness to play him early and the deficiencies that we've seen at the position. 0 catches, some blocking issues. It's a perfect opportunity for someone like Jelani Thurman, an uber talented guy that everyone thinks has all of the tools to do it, to really lock in and step up and secure that position.
Yeah, I'd agree. They're giving them every opportunity. That how if I if I said I'll give you $100 if the tight ends play even snaps on Saturday, you'd have been like, why even promise me money that I can't have?
I wish someone in the Woody could pull him aside and be like, "Hey, I don't normally do this. They really they send you to the gulag early in the season, and for you never to be seen again if they don't think you're ready by week 1. It feels like so for them to really be giving him this opportunity. I wish someone would put their arm around him and say, "Hey, take this opportunity now, please."
Yeah, he's been given every chance. But Rob, what is the fourth thing you've learned on Saturday?
Will Howard is more than capable of leading this team to a national championship. Yes, I was able to deduce that from a game against Akron week 1. But he could have not thrown a ball after the way I saw him cheesing on the sidelines before the game. And I would have known that this guy is an improvement from last year. And we said multiple times last year, we lost to the national champs. It makes me sick even saying that by 6 points. Like we were right there. And the way that this guy showed poise and collectiveness before the game, during the game, you see him smiling before he's calling a snap. That level of calm around this team is exactly what they need. And more than anything of his actual abilities as a quarterback, it was his intangibles as far as how he carried himself. And the fact that he was able to, I mean, we heard a lot be made of his deep ball, me included. I mean, I was at one of the spring practices, didn't look great as far as his ability to stretch the field. I didn't see any what I like to call Peyton Manning fused neck balls when he throws those duck wobblers up there and it looks like someone could just grab them out of the air because it doesn't look like you're not sure if it's a pass or a punt. And every pass that I saw from Will Howard on Saturday had a good bit of zip on the ball and nothing too concerning as far as arm strength was displayed on Saturday for me. So Will Howard just proved that I feel like he's more than capable and absolutely an improvement from what we saw from our signal caller last year.
Yeah, I agree with you for the most part. I would say I think I only had maybe one issue throw where I thought Jeremiah Smith when he made the one-handed catch, I was like, oh, he either shorted him a little bit or he saw him late. But really outside of that, I thought the wide receivers let Will Howard down well more than Will Howard let the receivers down. But I have a follow-up question. So now we talked about it all offseason. How does Will Howard rank among the transfer quarterbacks? How much does he rank among the quarterbacks returning in college football at the big time schools? You got to see Carson Beck in a Georgia offense that really got off to a slow start against Clemson. You got to see Texas Quinn Ewers against nobody, really like a team without a pulse in Colorado State. They really went crazy. We saw Dylan Gabriel against Idaho. The stats look fine, but they didn't push the ball really at all on that vaunted FCS defense. You saw Michigan not have a quarterback until the day of the game. Looking around college football now and looking at Will Howard and what we got. Well, I forgot. Let me mention Cam Ward, who balled out on Saturday as well. That's the one who truly was balling out. Where do you think Will Howard ranks among the best quarterbacks in college football?
Transfer quarterbacks?
No, just quarterbacks in general, not even going transfers.
Oh, because I was going to say if we're ranking transfer quarterbacks, I would say he was 3 behind Cam Ward, and then that guy at Syracuse. Why did we get him? If I knew Syracuse Kyle was available in the transfer portal, I would have said maybe keep that guy, but only Ohio State Kyle was available. But nationally, I don't. Jackson Dart went absolutely
Yeah, that went
crazy
crazy.
at Ole Miss.
Well, my question is, I won't say rank them. I would say, do you believe he's a top 5 quarterback in college football? That may make it a little
All
easier.
right, let me see if I can name 5 that had better performances. Jackson Dart.
Cam
I
Ward.
think Quinn Ewers is better just because it's Quinn. Jalen Milrow. Um,
Jalen Milrow? Yeah.
and then Quinn Ewer, or I mean not Quinn Ewers, Cam Ward. So that's 5. And then, am I missing anyone? Is there anyone that you can think of off the top of your head? Let us know in the chat.
I
Anyone that impressed you more than Will Howard this past
yeah, I
weekend?
don't
I'm not sure.
I wouldn't say Carson Beck necessarily had a better day,
I
but I
mean,
think
obviously,
he's
yeah.
a better player.
Okay,
But
so
yeah.
yeah, so we got Gojo saying top 8. It seems like Will Howard after week 1 is maybe in that top 8 conversation. You have, yeah, I mean, I see a Miller Moss in the chat. Be interesting to see how this this USC season goes if Miller Moss is able to continue to ride the success that he saw in the bowl game and now in week 1. So that'll definitely be something to keep an eye on. But yeah, no, probably not top 5, but top 10, which would have been a surprise if you would have asked me in the spring, could Will Howard be a top 10 quarterback in college football? I would have said probably not, but I don't think he needs to be. And if he is a top 10 quarterback in college football, then watch out because the Buckeyes are going to look like world beaters.
Yeah, I would agree there, and that was also a good shout for Miller Moss, guy. He absolutely balled out on Sunday, and the last game of last season, he balled out. So he's actually the quarterback who won the Big Ten Quarterback of the Week for the
I
Big Ten.
mean, and we know Will Howard was looking to potentially go to USC, and then Miller Moss went absolutely nuts in that bowl game. And he's like, Ryan Day, you still got a spot.
Yeah. Hey, my agent. I don't know. LA. I don't like good weather. I need to go someplace a little chillier. That's just more my
Women
thing.
are too pretty out here.
You sure you ain't just watched the USC game? No, I'm not even watching the game. I'm just out having dinner with my family. I wasn't even looking at it. But yeah, I think I'd rather go Ohio State regardless. So it's definitely funny. So Ron, the fourth thing I learned on Saturday. I didn't learn this on Saturday, actually. I learned this during the off season, but it was confirmed on Saturday. The hype for Arvell Reese is real. So Arvell Reese was much talked about going in. I'm the one who told you early, buy the stock, get as much of it as you can. You got to sell your house, do that, do whatever you got to do to get as much as you can. I was able to do that, and it paid off. Arvell Reese on Saturday played the second most snaps out of the linebackers with a total of 33. I thought he flew to the ball. I thought he looked the part. And I think Arvell Reese, Cody Simon is not back yet. But as far as I've seen right now, Arvell Reese is still making a bid for that starter Mike linebacker position. He talked about him wearing the comms. He talked about him calling out the defense. I think if this kid is able to just let him play and just go through, obviously, I still want the linebacker rotation. I don't want, two guys getting 200 snaps and then by Michigan, they're burnt out. I don't want to see that at all. But I think Arvell Reese, if you just let him go right now and say, hey, this is your job, run with it, I think by the end of this season, we have an absolute dude at linebacker. Said it before, Heisman's the floor. Ron, am I correct in what I
So
learned?
disrespectful, man. How dare you? You had the opportunity to talk about the entire linebacker room. You could have given flowers to James Laurinaitis for the way he has that room playing. Not just Arvell Reese, not just CJ Hicks actually getting a start, not just Sonny Styles moving positions and then moving to Mike to get us through the game. None of these things, not Gabe Powers going out there and dunking on people and looking like a generational athlete out there when he's getting pick sixes. No, we had to make it all about Arvell Reese. And while I'm a monster at Ohio State, why no love for the entire room, Q? So shady of you.
I have given credit to the entire room, but if you're going with the top thing I learned about the linebacker, that is it. I thought
No, there's
CJ.
no way that you were more surprised by Arvell Reese's performance than you were by Gabe Powers' vertical. Tell me I'm lying.
Oh yeah, my fault. Yeah, Gabe Powell's vertical was the most impressive thing.
I
By
saw
any, it's
mixed
more impressive
numbers.
than
His
Mason on
vertical was
Saturday.
higher than Zion Williamson and LeBron James.
That's what I thought it was. I was like, yo, when does Zion get a jersey? Why's he wearing 36? Oh yeah, that's Gabe Powers. My fault. No, I think the linebacker units, and this was one thing I learned. I thought the linebacker unit played extremely well. Give Jay Lordnice his credit. I've talked about Sonny Styles. I've talked about CJ Hicks. I do think the one thing is the tackling in space, and I think that's for the total defense. But I've seen the linebackers miss a few, Hicks and Reese included. But I'm just saying, I think this is one of those times where you see this guy this talented this early, and you're like, wow, to this be his first time playing linebacker, because remember, he was just edge rushing all last season. That's where he practiced. That's where he didn't really get any snaps, but that's what he did all last season. And to come in, oh, go ahead, Ron, if you got something.
No, I was gonna say you're reading ahead in the show notes because my next thing that I learned was talking about the depth at defensive line, because last year you saw Arvell Reese, who came in as a linebacker, have to rep at edge because of Mitchell Melton's injury. Mitchell Melton back completely healthy. You saw the rotation at defensive tackle and defensive end. So to be going 5 deep at defensive end already, and then not even to mention Edric Houston getting there, so even 6 deep on this defensive line, I thought it spoke a ton to the depth now that we're seeing Arvell Reese get to play his natural position and comfortable rotating at the position that he was filling in for last year because of the lack of depth. I felt like week 1 was a huge display of Ohio State's depth that I think that maybe for years past that Ohio State fans have been clamoring to see these guys get on the field and get an opportunity. In week 1, you see Ryan Day and the rest of the coaching staff really go deep into the depth chart and really get everyone out on the field. And Buckeye fans, not too many complaints this week. A lot of people singing the praises of the coaching staff and the rotations that they were able to accomplish this past week.
Yeah, I would agree in there. And I do want to ask you talk about the defensive line. I want to read off some snap counts and see what you think with those. So at defensive end, starting, Jack Sawyer had 31, JCT had 30, Kenyatta Jackson with 22, Caden Curry with 16, Mitchell Melton with 15, Edric Houston with 11. Going forward, as we get into more big time play, we talked about last year in Notre Dame, they wouldn't pull the defensive ends out the game for anything. They have been burnt out, whatever. They play it the entire game. Is this a level at defensive end with as a snap count that you would, if we went this game by game, is this something you would be happy with?
Larry has a saying that he says, I see my guys in practice every day, and I know how many reps that they can play at the level that I need them to play when they're on the field. And he says that he's completely aware of what that number is. If he feels like JTT and Jack are out there flying around and he doesn't see a dip in their production, leave them out there. If he thinks they're tired, get them out the game and get Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson into the game. I feel like we've talked about this a bunch in the offseason. This is the first season where I don't have a candidate for a why is he on the field guy. And I feel like if these guys get tired and Larry goes a ton of rotation, I'd be fine with that. But if Larry thinks both of those guys who are going to be NFL guys, I mean, I don't know many people that were clamoring. And before I even say this name, no, neither one of our defensive ends are this guy. But people weren't screaming to take Chase Young off the field. Like, if you have starters, if you think they're going to go to the NFL, if you think they're not tired and they're playing at a high level, I don't care what the snap count is. Would I love to see the other guys play? Absolutely. But if Larry thinks that they can go, they can go. If he's rotating them, I'm going to be fine because I think both of those guys are more than capable of coming in. So I trust Larry's decision as far as knowing who's capable and the snap counts that they're willing to do, despite some of the questions in years past about why Mike Hall and Tyleik Williams weren't on the field. But these guys are in shape and healthy. I think Larry Johnson has a ton of things that he can do with the rotation here.
Yeah, and I liked it. I thought it was pretty balanced. I would think during the season, JT and Jack are going to probably be somewhere in that 35 to 40 range. But again, I love seeing the rotation. I love seeing Kenyatta Jackson get out there and look like an absolute dude with his athleticism. Caden Curry deserves to play. Mitchell Melton, guy, we've waited. How long have we waited to see Mitchell Melton on the field?
He gave me a little jump scare when I saw 17 on the field. I was like, no. I have 10 more minutes to sleep.
I thought Carnell Tate might have been rushing the passer. I was like, oh man, he really developed this offseason, man. He's playing both sides of the ball. Travis Hunter,
hold my beer.
yeah, who? Our wide receiver rushes from the defensive end. But yeah, man, it was just so good to see them out. And I want to follow with this. So we look at defensive tackle, and I don't think you had this. I didn't have this in mind, but I wanted to touch on this rotation real quick just to see what you think, because we talked a lot about the D tackles and the talent we have there. So this snap count goes at D tackle as follows: Tyleek with 40 snaps, Ty Hamilton with 35, Caden McDonald with 17, Hero Canoe with 9, Jason Moore with 7, Will Smith with 7, Tywone Malone with 4. So not quite as dispersed as the defensive end rotation went. I want to ask you for there. Does that number surprise you? Or those numbers surprise you in any way, shape, or form?
Can I hear 1 through 4 again?
Yeah, so Tyleek at 40, Ty Hamilton at 35, Caden McDonald at 17, Hero Canoe at 9.
Hero Canoe only had 9 snaps.
Yeah, he only had the ones that jumped out. So I'll say the ones that jumped out to me. We talked a lot about Hero Canoe, Tywone Malone, and Jason Moore were guys we talked about coming this offseason. Hero Canoe only had 9. Jason Moore had 7. Tywone Malone had 4.
Yeah, to see Hero Canoe only had 9, that I feel like that number can go up a little bit. But also at the same time, I mean, a guy like Tyleek Williams, who we heard for how many years of his career couldn't stay on the field just because he wasn't in shape. He wasn't able to be on the field for long periods of time, and that's why he was constantly being pulled out of the game. That's why he wasn't getting the reps early in his career. So to see him lead the team in snaps is awesome to see, just from a conditioning standpoint. Shout out to Mick. So to see that Tyleek is in shape and able to play all of those snaps is great to hear, but I'd also like to see Hero Canoe get a few more snaps there. So while it was exciting to see Tyleek be able to play a full game and look the way he did, I'd like to see Hero, especially you saw what he was able to do with his opportunities out there.
Yeah, I would agree there. And the reason I brought up these rotations, I would like to see Canoe more and Malone get a few more, at least get them around the 10, 12 mark so they can have a couple series. But this leads me into the fifth thing I learned, the final thing I learned on Saturday, is that rotations matter. In Ohio State, regardless of maybe some guys got less snaps, 70 Buckeyes saw action on Saturday with a total of 27 on offense, 32 on defense. Jay Book had brought it up in his tweet. Yeah, man, I think this is a vast improvement from what we had before, what we've dealt with. I think this has been the separation between Ryan Day's program and some other programs of getting young guys developed and starters really hogging the minutes until the very last time, where it's like, well, they can't score 30 in a minute, so it's safe to put guys in. So I think this is a vast improvement, and I think this is one of the keys for Ohio State to build off on. So, Ron, fifth thing I learned is rotation.
Yeah, man, I love to see it out there. The amount of people that played on this game, I couldn't have imagined coming into this game, even with the success that we had, even with us running up the score early. I did not expect the Buckeyes to be this deliberate about their rotations, and it was great to see. It's something that we've been clamoring for in Columbus for years, and to see them not only play their depth, but have depth that is playable is exciting.
Yeah. So, Ron, what is the fifth and final thing you learned on Saturday?
I already gave my 5.
Oh, you gave okay. All right, we get jumbled and I started, we ended, so I forgot. I went.
I was like highlighting them as we go. I'm like, yep, that's all 5 for me.
Yeah, I think covered here. I was like, yeah, you were good to go. Okay, so that is the 5 things we learned each on Saturday. Chat again, throw in what you learned. If you like that segment, please let us know. We try some different stuff out. We try to be creative at times here. So I thought that went really well, and I love getting to pick Ron's brain and see what really stuck out to him on Saturday, other than us just yelling at each other, which we typically do every other day of a week. So
yeah, man, this was definitely a good segment. A little tired to be yelling. Man, it honestly feels like the last 5 days have been a month and a half, but we are here. We got a packed week of shows. We got our guy Pat filling in for Q on Friday. Johnny Olden will be joining us on Thursday. So big week here for the Buckeye Roast, but we are going to get up out of here because we are back to work today. Q, let the people know where to find you.
Yeah, I couldn't get my camera to focus for some odd reason, but it's the last minute of the show.
The hand method.
The hand. Good work. Yeah.
None.
Anyway, appreciate everybody coming through. It was a good time. Good to see you, Mary, in there. Sorry for the late delay, but we hope we gave you all the content you wanted. Everybody in the chat, make sure to like that video. If you are on Twitter, make sure to heart and retweet. And don't forget, podcast. We were over there too. And then we never mentioned it. Ron drops a lot of his edits on TikTok, and we are on Instagram. So if you're at those places, feel free to venture over as well. If you want to find me, I am Cityboy Quinn on Twitter. Find us on Instagram and TikTok, and Minor League Films here on YouTube. Ron.
Q's lying. He's just trying to get you to come over and check out our TikTok so you can see his dance moves. We don't actually post Ohio State content over there. Q just does all of the viral dances on TikTok. So if you're into viral dances on TikTok, make sure you check out the Best Damn Media Group on TikTok.
We're going to have 58 profile views because we were going to look and see if that's actually real.
But if you want to find me, you can find me on Twitter at 2Ts. It's 2_TEES. You can find me here weekdays with Q for the Buckeye Roast at 8 a.m. Saturdays on the Menace of Sports platform for the Best Damn College pregame show. And then post games on the Bleacher Report app with Chris Drew. And then, of course, Sunday, the flagship Buckeye BS with me, Q, Mike, and Cam. We appreciate you tuning in to this morning's episode of the Buckeye Roast. It's always go Bucks and OH.
I-O.
From my hometown, late in Maureen, the